Hey there, and welcome to the Bold Badass Business Show, where we bring you badasses from all over the globe. And you all, today, I am thrilled to have in the house another sister from another mister of mine. And that is Kathy Baldwin, who I had the good fortune to meet through a friend, right? Kathy, who was it through? I'm trying to remember. Somebody introduced us.
No, it was me reaching out to you when I saw Badass Business Coach. I'm like,
yes.
I think you're my kind of peeps.
You knew it. And so this is Badass Business, Bold Badass Business meets Unlearn the Crap today, you all. And Kathy she had an incredibly successful corporate career and had a personal breakdown, which I hope you're going to share some of that. That's a breakthrough, really. And then she went on to work as a visionary and personal transformation and women's empowerment. She has 4 decades of experience learning from some of the leading minds in psychology and quantum physics and personal development. So this lady here knows her stuff, and we just thoroughly hit it off. So I'm excited that today we're going to be talking about what universal laws have to do with your business mastery. So welcome to the show, Kathy.
Thank you, Dr. Barnsley. I am so excited for this conversation.
I am too. I can't think of anything better to do on a Friday afternoon, really, than talk about this, because so many people are beginning to become aware of universal laws, right? And some of these we can really call spiritual laws, but they're rooted in energy. They're rooted in physics.
It's very scientific. It's very physics oriented. And it's like understanding your digestive system. If you understand how your body works, then you're not going to fight against it.
Exactly. And, the law is always working. The universal law is always working no matter what. So how about we understand how to use it? Because it's always going to be working, right? The law of increase, whatever we're focusing on is going to increase. So why would we focus on the crap, right?
Absolutely. My favorite example of this is we were taught how to drive a car, and the very first thing they gave us was a manual of the rules of the road, So we understood the environment that we were operating our car in. But yet we weren't taught how to drive our bodies. We weren't taught about the environment we're driving in. And we're just trying to figure it out all the time when it doesn't need to be that hard.
Yeah. Like we're letting our intellect and our analytical side kind of drive.
Yeah.
And that's really a recipe for disaster if it's by itself.
Absolutely. But we're also at the whim of societal expectations and things that are breaking down externally, because we are in a time of vast exponential change. Mm-hmm. And so if we're clinging to what is already existing that is unsustainable for this coming future, instead of going inward, then we're going to get lost.
I love it. Yes. And if we put our locus of value outside of us, that it's whatever we're seeking is outside, then we are not really plumbing all the gifts that we have as well. We're not really in touch with that wellspring,
It's like,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's like looking at the scale and getting angry at the scale and trying to recalibrate the scale to get to the weight you want. It's not going to change anything.
It's not. It's not. It's not. Yeah. I remember a friend said, you know what? If you lose 10 pounds, it's not going to change the world. And I thought
But if you change the scale to say it looks like you got 10 pounds lost, it's not changing your health.
It's not changing the reality. It's
not. Nothing.
Yeah. I think we should all just burn our scales, recycle them, stomp on them. I have scales. It's just an example of how we kind of live in this world in a human body. And we are these massive energetic beings, but we're in this human body and we need to weigh ourselves. Oh my goodness.
And the shoulds.
And the shoulds of it, right? You should be this, you should have this BMI, you should be blah, blah, blah. Yes. So I know that when you talk about unlearning the crap, you talk about really unlearning a lot of those shoulds that are passed on to us. Those beliefs that we don't even realize are just beliefs. They're beliefs. They're not facts.
Yeah, absolutely. There is the physical component to unlearning the crap because we have a central nervous system. We have a biochemical body. So we create stress hormones and, we have all these other hormones that can affect things. But in our conversation where we're talking about it relating to business and empowerment, unlearn the crap, it can be generational. It can be ancestral. It can be just something that happened in our childhood that was misinterpreted by a young brain that didn't know how we were wired. It can be so many different things that just take us off course when all we have to do is identify the crap that's in our way and remove it.
Right. And usually the crap that's in our way is simply a reflection of what's inside that needs to be shifted.
Absolutely. 100%.
Because we're seeing everything with the filter, we of each of our individual consciousnesses, so if I'm attuned to, oh, I'm not good enough, then I'm going to find reasons to be right about that. If I believe that, if somebody passed that on to me. So let's break it down for people a little bit. Let's think about, Kathy, an example in business, right? So let's say, this is a common one. We all get this one. Let's say we're so excited about an offering that we have, and we have that enrollment conversation with someone, and they're like, no, I don't think so. I think that's too expensive. Or I think, I don't think this is going to do what I need it to do. So how do we handle it when we get that rejection, right? How do we handle that? Because we could make up a lot of stories like, what I have is not good enough. I'm never going to make it in business. People do. They make up a lot of stories.
Yeah, there was two sides of that equation. One is it's not our business to try to save the world. And we have these beautiful, fantastic ideas, especially women. We build these businesses on things that can really help, can really make things different. But not everybody is ready. And so the universal law for that would be the law of rhythm. We all have rhythms and cycles and stages. So when you understand where the cycle of your prospective person is, what stage are they in buying? What stage are they in their pain? What stage are they in? And does your offer match that stage? So now you understand that it has nothing to do with you when someone says no. It's about them and where they are. But we can increase our odds of converting somebody by helping them see where their stages are, seeing where their crap is, where they're stuck, and giving them the hope that we can get them through. Because
I love this. I've never heard somebody talk about rhythms in terms of the sales process. And that's really interesting, because it is all about the timing. Where are they? We're usually best serve those people who are a version of who we were before, right? But where are they in that cycle of who they are? And maybe it isn't a fit right now, but it'll be a fit later.
Yeah. So if you look at it that you're there to serve, but if it's not their right timing, then building that relationship can help get them to that timing. But then you realize it's not about you, because nothing in anybody else, what they do or say, has anything to do with us. And we have our own rhythm and our own cycles. And our business has rhythms and cycles.
Love that. You know, our business is an entity. It is a being. It's kind of a living being. It has a kind of personality. It has an energy to it. It has a brand. I mean, a spiritual imprint to it. Our business.
Everything is creation. Every single thing is creation.
Oh, now I love that statement. That's powerful.
Well, it goes into quantum physics, because when we go to the root, at the very smallest of anything, is potential. They've proven with the observer effect that it can be a wave, which is energy, or it can be a particle, which is a physical manifestation. But it's both. It doesn't do anything until we put our consciousness in on it. So our consciousness on our business puts it into fruition. This is one of my favorite universal laws for people who are in business. Can I share this?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Everything is energy. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transmuted or transferred. So when you have a thought about a business, you have now created the business. It now exists. It exists in the energetic realm, but everything has a gestation period. And everything required, so that's another universal law, is the law of gestation. Everything requires masculine and feminine, which is the energy that creates the spark, that creates the energy. So we need that conflict to create. We also have the law of compensation, which is you will be equally compensated for your efforts and your contributions. So when you have that idea, you know that book that's 6 Feet from Gold? Those people who give up because they think it should happen. I failed. It didn't work. And then, you know, a few years later, they see someone successfully doing their business and they go, I had that idea, but it was created, but you didn't finish bringing it into physical.
You didn't put forth the focus, the energy, the commitment, the action steps too that are required, you know. And it's so interesting because, you know, we're in that day and age of everybody wanting like overnight fix. Okay, so I want a 6-figure business. I want it overnight, you know? No, it's not going to happen. Look, I work with people and I'll get you there, but it may be in 7 months. That was one client of mine, but more people, it takes longer than that. It takes a year, maybe 2 years. And they're still like, oh, I'm right at 97. Keep going. 6 feet from goal. Keep going. Do not quit. Because when we quit, we basically put ourselves into stasis. And you and I both know that then there's that great law about an object the law of inertia. An object at rest will stay at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. And hopefully that coach you have is an outside force who's going to give you a good butt kick and get you moving.
Yeah, but do you really want to take something so far and then pass the torch to somebody else?
Yeah, like you're about to get your gold medal. You're going off the stage and let's give it to somebody else. Oh, it's not working.
Yeah, and that is exactly what is happening. Because you've done the creation in the energetic. You've brought it forward so far, but when we can't see it, we can't touch it. We think it doesn't exist.
I love this. I love this because thoughts, you know, there's that saying, thoughts are things. And truthfully, everything is created out of mind with a capital M, which you could call source mind. Everything comes out of mind or some creative intelligence that governs the universe. Some people call it God,
Consciousness, yeah.
source consciousness. Everybody has different names for it, but there is something that is a creative intelligence that somehow keeps everything in the natural world moving and changing, and that birth death cycle. So we've got to really understand that we are a microcosmic part of this macrocosm. And what applies to the macrocosm must apply to us too.
Yeah. And then that's the universal law of correspondence.
I love that. You know all the names of these.
I live and breathe the universal laws.
Yes.
And when we can understand them in such a way as I'm talking about it, and it becomes second nature, then everything makes sense.
So that person, to circle around again to the rhythms, that person who is sitting in that enrollment conversation and has someone in front of them, they know they can help, with what they have. And that person is not budging. The thing is to realize that the seeds are being planted so that eventually the planets will align, so to speak, but eventually everything will come together. And at some point that person will say, you know what? I need this. Maybe not from you, but I need such and such. Let me go get it. I think I really need that now. And actually I had this happen twice this week, Kathy, with people I talked about stuff ages ago with, and they came back and said, hey, I'm ready now.
Yeah. And we don't know what the outcome is. And that's where we get lost in the shoulds, is we think that if we do A, that we should immediately get B, but we don't know where B is coming from. So the energy that we're putting out there, when we're serving with love and our alignment, and we're living within our purpose, and we are giving at our highest level, we don't know where it's coming back from. And when we stop the connection by thinking that it's supposed to come from this person I'm in the conversation with right now,
or in a relationship with, romantically or whatever, or my
business, whatever. And we try to control the return of it. We only have power on what we put out. Where it comes from is where it's coming from is not our control, but we know with certainty, with the law of compensation, that we will be equally compensated for our efforts and our contributions. We just don't know where and how and when.
I love that. And, I've always said in my books on prosperity, I always say, it will come, it's going to return to us multiplied, whatever we put out. So we put out negativity, we're going to get some negativity back. That's the other thing. We put out lack of kindness, we're going to get some back. We put out dishonesty, we're going to get some back. But we put out kindness and support and upliftment, that's going to come back multiplied, but usually not from the person we gave it to. Absolutely. And that's the law of circulation, right? Yeah. That we must circulate this energy. So in a business sense, something that I learned early on, and I'm really glad I learned this, Kathy, back in the 90s, actually. No, it was in the 2000s. I realized that when things would get slow in my business, this was in the first few years, when things would get slow, I would stop and I would say, okay, how can I give more? Where can I give? What can I give? And maybe it wasn't money at that time. It could be time. I was volunteering, just a listening ear for people. But how can I give my time, my energy, my talents, and money perhaps? But there are many other forms of giving, so many forms of giving. And as soon as I would activate that, and a really great way to activate it in business is barter, by the way. As soon as I would activate some giving, then suddenly the phone would start to ring again, So
absolutely. I'm so glad you went there, because your initial question of that sales conversation, we talked about the buyer, but
Yes.
let's go to the business person. Because if they start putting negative connotations about how somebody else's choices, they are now living in a lower vibration.
Mm-hmm.
They're living in scarcity, in greed, in fear, and all of those things are taking us purposely out of alignment of what we're looking to achieve.
Mm.
So you are exactly right that when you are living in that abundant state of giving and giving and giving, however it is received and however we give, because there's so many resources. You're right. There's our energy, our time, our resources, our heart, our compassion, our
Mm-hmm.
knowledge. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's and so when we stay in that state, then it just naturally happens. But when we're so fearful that we must have this sale, that if this doesn't happen, all that pressure, we're taking ourselves out of our power, and we're
Out
going
of
totally
alignment.
against. Yeah,
It becomes all about us and not about that person who's in front of us
always,
who we desire to
always,
serve, you know?
always.
And it becomes an act of desperation, not an enrollment conversation, you know? I think it's very powerful. And I've been really learning this again, as we all do in business. We learn things again and again, but it becomes very powerful to be like, I'd love for you to join us and let me know, yes or no. It's just to be okay with however it goes, right? Even
Absolutely.
when we know we can really help someone, to be unattached to the outcome.
Yep.
We see their
Absolutely.
vision, we want their vision for them, but to be unattached to the particular outcome. So
Yes.
powerful.
What you were just talking about, I'm going to bring it into the physical medical. We go into the hospital and we get hooked up to an electrocardiogram, right?
Hmm?
What does that do? That measures the energy that is being put out by our heart. Our heart is a receiver as well
Mm-hmm.
as a transmitter.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are transmitting fear and scarcity and lack and all of these other things, that other heart is picking that up. And what are we going to do when we pick up those negative emotions and those negative feelings? We're going to repel it. So that person might very well be in the perfect rhythm and timing for your offer. But if you're offering it with fear, with so many conditions of what it is you need, you're repelling the very thing you're trying to receive.
This is so powerful. I hope everyone is listening very carefully, because being able to stay aligned, be in your alignment, be in your alignment. Notice be, not do, but be in your alignment. You're going to serve that person in that conversation you have, whether or not they ever enroll with you. You are served to them if you stay in that alignment. And even if they don't enroll, it's okay, because you've made a difference for them if you stay in alignment. And I really believe there is something about, they say there's a book, I think, Go to Know. It's called Go to Know, that just get as many no's as you can, because you just release the worry about whether it's a yes or a no. You release that, and you just allow, you're in a space of alignment and allowing
Yes.
to happen.
Yeah. Can I share something from my previous corporate world that ties into the universal
Yes,
laws?
please do. I
Okay.
love that. Yes, because we have people who listen who aren't business owners too. We've got some corporate folks, and we've got some people who are planning their exit.
Okay. Well, I was always in sales and marketing and sales and operations. And so I would train, I was always a award-winning salesperson. I trained award-winning salespeople. And do you know how I would train them?
How?
I would say, set your goal. What is your goal? Now make it your minimum, that this is your minimum of what you want, and then let it go and just serve every single person the best you can serve each of them for their individual needs.
Okay, now I want to back up and make sure I understand this. So it would be set your minimum goal. So if you're
most people see it as a target they want to reach.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so set a goal, but make it your minimum. This or
make it your minimum.
This or something better.
Yes. Don't make it what you want to reach. Say, this is what I want to achieve, minimum.
Minimum. And then release it. This or some, and I know there are plenty of people who say this or something better. And I've definitely said that, this or something better. And then the universe begins to cooperate with us. We begin to cooperate with the universe and just keep. Yeah, I love that. So in business, it could be a particular offer that you have that you love for people to take, set that as your goal, that they'll be able to enroll in whatever that offer is that would be like that you enjoy, that maybe it's a starter offer even. I don't know, but set that as the goal that is minimum and then release it. I love that. Yeah. So let's give them another example from business, because I think this is really great. I love for us to take these laws and make them really concrete, because they do become concrete.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They absolutely are. What scenario? Give me a scenario.
I love that you do the sales too. I didn't know that, Kathy, but I was picking it up because I was like, now that's powerful. Let's say let's see, what's a common situation that people get into business? Let's say that you have a client. Here's a good one. One of my clients has this going on. You have a client who keeps asking for more time, and it's a flat fee offer. And you've just never had somebody ask for so much time and have so many questions. And, you're spending a lot of extra time with this person. So how do you handle that? Setting your...
I know how I handle it, but I'm going to have to figure out how to tie it into universal laws. First of all, you haven't set clear boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because if you did not articulate where your boundaries were, but on the other hand, the market will show you what is needed. So if you have a client who is asking for more than you created, then it could very well be you didn't create a big enough offer.
Mm.
And so now you can sit down with your client and say, it looks like you need more than what I was offering. Mm-hmm. And you can renegotiate, or you can enforce your boundaries.
You can have an add-on, that's available, which is what I suggested. I said, have an add-on, have it ready. And, she's revising and looking back at her policies, because those are our boundaries in written form with people. So she's looking at that, and then she can have this add-on that's available for people who do want more time, because we definitely want to honor that. But the problem is that it's becoming way beyond the scope of what they're paying for. Yeah, I love that.
So everything is information. Absolutely everything that is coming at us or to us is information. So this is where the crap gets in the way. If your belief is, I cannot believe she's taking advantage of me, I cannot believe they want more from me, now our triggers are being set off. And those triggers are our soul talking to us and saying, there's something here inside of me that needs to be released and healed.
All right, I'm going to pause you, because this is genius. I want y'all to really hear that. Everything is just neutral information. I added the word neutral, right? Yep. Nobody's out to get us. No, the universe isn't out to get us. It's not out to say, yeah, let's go squash Kathy. It's not doing that. No. Everything's information. It's our crap that makes us create a story. It's our triggers that show us there's something we need to work on within ourselves, because we're getting triggered, and it's actually plugging into an old story that we haven't yet released. Love that. Yes.
Yeah. So our triggers are designed to say, I'm ready to stop suppressing. I'm ready to let go of this. So when we are triggered, instead of feeling that we're being attacked and we're out of control, like, oh my God, I can't control my emotions. And I just felt, if you look at it, go, oh, there's another one. It's ready to go. Woohoo. Because yes, because if we're carrying this toxicity inside of us, and that's why I say that crap is excrement. It's physical. It's going through our lymphatic system and everything. And that trigger is something we're suppressing that is making us ill. And our body's saying, I'm ready to let it go. So
It's
that
there
is
to
what,
service.
yeah. So
That
if you're
there to service.
so if a client is coming to us and they want more from us than what we have offered, and it's creating a disempowering story for us, then that is part of the information of our body to say, ooh, here's a gift. Here's a more healing. So you can rise up higher. You can level up, let it go. Or it's information that says, oh, the market needs more. I need to provide more. But that means to live in universal laws with equal compensation, that it's not about a win-lose. It must be a win-win.
It's going to be a win all the way around.
Which means you get to say, I see you need and want more. What is it that you need and want? And this is what it will cost you.
This is what to invest. I don't like that word cost. I avoid it at all cost.
I was using my universal words, not my sales words, because you don't use the word cost for sales words.
Then somebody feels like, oh God, I'm giving it. This is painful. I have to fork over money. It's so painful.
Yeah, but again, that's another crap belief. Money is energy. Money is, and if we are hoarding our money, what happens when we dam up water? It gets putrid. It's stagnant. It creates disease. If our money is just stagnant and we're hoarding it because we're so afraid of losing it, then we're blocking the flow. It's supposed to be in movement.
Kathy, you'll laugh that one of the best things that's happened to me, in a sense, okay, some people would be, what? But there was an investment I made, and it was well over $25,000, and I lost every bit of it. Every bit of it. This was a couple of years ago. Every bit of it. And a friend of mine made a similar investment, and she lost over 100 and 100,000. Right. And we just were like, well, and okay, well, and I saw how far I had come because I didn't bellyache at all about it. It was just for a little bit, I was like, oh, well, that's so annoying. But then I just released it, and it was like, well, I'm so grateful it wasn't more.
Okay, but
I'm so grateful.
But Dr. Barnsley, what did you get out of it?
Because what I learned,
you got something out of that exchange.
I did. Well, I learned, for one thing, I was like, well, I have it to lose. That's a wonderful thing. Seriously, it's a great thing to have ample money that you can lose some and you're not out of your house on the street,
Yeah.
Like, it's a great thing. I had it to lose. In a very strange way, it made me feel even more prosperous. So there was that. And I think also, just truthfully, there was a lesson about, when you go into things, you need to ask more questions and you need to be more vigilant in the way that you're observing things, because I certainly wasn't as vigilant, as I could have been. I realized that. And, this goes back to something that is a leadership principle that I'm sure there is a universal principle for it. Whenever anything goes wrong in your life or your business, you all, don't say, why the F did that happen? Oh my God, why me? Instead, well, you may say that initially, and just kind of get it out of your system for a little bit, but then ask the powerful question of, how did I create this? How am I responsible for this? Because that's the only place there's power in that, assuming the responsibility.
Yeah. And you've brought up my two favorite universal laws.
Yay! Let's hear them.
The two laws are the law of polarity and the law of relativity. So with the law of polarity, if you were living an abundant life, you must have the opposite appear. You must. Now, whether you lose something or you gained a lesson or something, but the same could be true when you are in hardship. The polar opposite is abundance. So where are you putting your focus? Because the opposite absolutely exists in every single situation. Everything has a polar opposite. So where was your attention in that moment? Were you looking at the negative side of it, and so that the abundance came later? Or was your abundance being showcased with the polar opposite so that you had the relativity of the perspective?
That, and the second, and also gratitude, because there were moments where I was trying to invest more and it wouldn't work. I had issues happen, and I was so grateful for that. I was like, oh, thank you, Grandpa Myrna. I really felt it was my grandparents who were very savvy, kind of intervening from the other side. So, but the thing was, I didn't feel like I'd lost. I was like, wow, it's so great that I still have all of this, and so it really is about, where do we choose to put our focus, because that is going to grow. It is going to grow. And just as you pointed out, there's when we have a battery, we have the positive pole and the negative pole, right? We have both. We have yin and yang. If we want to get a little more philosophical, we have anima and animus, as Carl Jung talked about. We have the
light
proton and the neutron. The proton.
But we have light and dark, and we have hot and cold.
Exactly. Water and fire.
Everything has an opposite.
See, this is powerful too, because if you think about it, there's an exercise I love to do with people when I teach self-management for leaders. I used to do that more than I do now, but it's always important in anything. Leadership is always important. And I would say, okay, let's write down your greatest weaknesses as a leader. What do you see as your greatest weaknesses? And then what we would do is we would take that and turn it into the greatest strength. So for example, for everyone, we turn it into the greatest strength. So for example, I'm really stubborn. I am a stubborn person, Kathy. But what's the positive of that? I am so persistent. I don't ever give up. I just will plod through just about anything, no matter how hard it is, because I'm so doggedly persistent. And where does that come? The other side of it is, I'm stubborn. Yeah. So think about it. Those of you listening, I want you to think about what you see as some of your weaknesses in business. Like you may say, well, I don't really think very logically. I don't have systems, for instance. Well, my guess is that you're extremely creative on the other side. All right. Yeah. And you're extremely free-spirited and independent, and you're an innovator.
Yeah.
And how it shows up, if you want to look at it this way, is, oh gosh, she's disorganized, she's kind of ADD, she's kind of this, but that's where genius resides too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that I love that you do that, because that is similar to what I do with my clients, which is, on your challenges is your greatest gift. So I use the example of a scale of 100%. Mm-hmm. So if you're putting all your focus on your challenges, right? Let's say you're putting 80% on your challenges. That means there's only 20% left for your zone of genius.
Yeah.
But if you turn and use the law of polarity or the law of relativity and the law of perspective, and you put your focus now on your zone of genius, which is at the exact opposite of your challenge. So whatever it is that you're challenged by, it's like, oh, thank you for showing me the way. And all you have to do is turn and look the exact opposite way. That's all you have to do. And
Let's
now
give
you
an
put your
example. Let's make it concrete.
okay.
Let's make it concrete too for people, because I keep hearing, and I've said it myself, oh my God, there's so much to do. I have too much to do. Oh, I don't manage my time well, blah, 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 stuff like that. All right. So let's say we're in a state of feeling overwhelmed. So
Overwhelmed.
what do we do? How do
Overwhelmed by what? Because
just too much
overwhelmed
to
is an
do.
emotion. Okay, but so
Like
still it's a
feeling
do.
pulled in a lot of directions, scattered, like everybody needs you. Everybody's asking for help. You're putting out fires, and the most important things aren't getting done, perhaps, would be a good way to put it.
Okay, so overwhelm is a broad statement, right? So if you are going broad with people, or if you're going broad with time, the opposite is to go narrow and focus in. But what I'm thinking of, let's say your challenge is health, okay? You're always having health issues. Then your zone of genius is in the other side of health. So wellness and sickness go hand in hand. Same with if you're talking about money. If money is a challenge you always have, then serving or creating is probably the other side. Wherever your challenge is, your zone of genius lives on the other side. So for me, I'll give you me as an example.
That's great.
Okay. I was struggling with stress and burnout. I had chronic inflammation. I had chronic stress, osteoarthritis, fibromyalgia, adrenal fatigue. I mean, I was a freaking mess.
Was this when you were in corporate? Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That was when I was in corporate. Mm-hmm. Because I was scattered and giving everything to everybody. I was paying attention to what they needed. My lesson was my zone of genius is inside of me. And when I give from what I have and give out, instead of the external of what people are looking for, and I'm trying to find it in me and give out, it was on the opposite. As soon as I went in, there was my zone of genius. There was my alignment. There was my health.
And there was pain release too.
Oh my God, yeah. I'm off of all medications.
I love it. Because our bodies are just like, we're gonna hurt, or we're gonna do this until you pay attention, until you, and of course, think about it. In massage, they call it trigger points, right? Yep. Trigger point. Yep. So we got those mental, emotional, spiritual triggers, but we have them in our bodies too. And so just to realize, oh, well, you know what? My shoulder's hurting. What am I feeling burdened by? What's going on here, with my shoulders, or whatever the case is. I love Louise Hay's work, actually. I have to mention this. I love her work where you can go in and you can see like the emotional underpinning of all sorts of conditions. So helpful.
You can heal yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
I love that book too.
You can heal your life. Such a very, very seminal work. And, I have actually a flip book that has all these conditions in it that she created. Yes. So when we understand, again, that our bodies being really kind of external, or they're vessels, right? Just like the world has material stuff, our body's material, right? It's there to show us what's going on with us on a level of consciousness. And that's so important. So important.
Our life is a direct reflection of what's going on inside of us and the crap we're carrying.
Yes.
So if you're not getting the external results in your life, in your relationships, in your health, in your wealth, in your home, in your lifestyle. I mean, it doesn't matter. It is all a direct reflection of what's going on inside. And you
there's
cannot,
something to release.
yes, and you cannot fix it by focusing in on the outside. You
I love
cannot.
that.
The only way is to go inward, remove the crap, the beliefs that are in the way, heal the traumas, release the stresses, and then come back to self. Come back to your own alignment. Live your authentic gift. And when we're talking about business, I believe that we are in a massive, massive paradigm shift. And the world is calling for each and every one of us to come to our individual zone of genius.
Yes.
Everything in the world is in massive flux. Our education, our workplaces, our healthcare, our education, our financial system. I mean, there is not a system that is not in chaos and breaking down right now, because we've put everything into these massive corporations. We've gone
We
away
don't
from
even have to see it as chaos and breaking down. We could just see it as regeneration. It's in regeneration, and it's in it's being completely reconstituted, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that is part of chaos. Chaos is a feminine thing. When we renovate a home, we've got to tear down all the stuff we don't want in order to rebuild. That's what we're in right now. Our worlds are changing, and we cannot live by an external set of rules and circumstances. So even those people who are working within corporate, finding the place where you are living your alignment and living your absolute zone of genius, where you are in flow and you are producing such beauty because you are giving what is you are meant to give. And if you are in corporate and you are, like me, a really horrible employee, and you really don't do well with someone trying to confine you into a little box, then yeah, I really rebelled on that. I mean, I'm a human design manifester. I'm a creator. And so coming into alignment with who I am and giving my zone of genius, now everything flows.
And it's so much more joyful, it's so much more joyful that way. We can tell when we're paddling, we're paddling up a river, or we don't even have a paddle, we're just trying to doggy paddle the kayak,
That's information.
It's when we're struggling and we're efforting and everything feels so hard. I really believe that one of the best things we could do is just stop and go make yourself happy. Go watch something that makes you happy. Go take a walk. Just go make yourself happy. Stop working on the thing that's driving you nuts. Let it go and go do something else and come back with fresh eyes. And,
absolutely,
so often when we've stepped back like that, we've given the universe some opportunity to work some little magic there. And when we come back, things are better,
Yeah.
But the key is we shift ourselves.
Yes.
We don't shift the external circumstance, because at that point, it probably isn't shiftable. It's shittable, but it's not shiftable. But we need to let it go, and we shift within ourselves. Oh my gosh, I can't believe what time it is. This has flown by, Kathy. You and I just always have these great, incredible conversations.
I know.
You all learn so much about the laws. I hope you listen to all those laws. This is really an episode you'll want to go back and listen to, everybody, because we went over at least 8 laws, at least like 6, 8 laws. And when you understand those, like we said, you can begin to put them to work in your life, in your business, in your relationships with yourself, with your creator, with people around you, with your clients. You can begin to really align with what it is that you deeply want, which is a calling that only you have. I really believe that only you have this calling. No one else has it, right? And if you let it go, somebody else will catch it, but you're bringing it forth for a reason. And Yeah. So
it was given to you, and only it was given to you, and only you can deliver it the way it was meant to be delivered. If somebody else picks it up, they're not going to be able to deliver it with what you were supposed to bring with.
I love that. Yeah. So catch it and run with it. Don't drop the ball, so to speak. So it's that wonderful time where we're wrapping up, and you all, we have thousands of dollars of gifts for you in the Bold Badass Freebie Vault. This is a way that I love to serve, because I want to promote everyone who comes and gives their time to be on the show. And of course, I want you all listening to have a ton of resources that you can use. There's so many trainings, there's so much information in this freebie vault, and there's so many gifts like checklists, templates, free sessions, courses, videos, all sorts of things in there. Mind movies. You've got so much good stuff, thousands and thousands of dollars. And here's where you find it. All right, grab your pencil or write it on your hand. If you're like me, if I don't have a notepad, I just write on my hand, just like when I was 12. So https:// just like you always do, right? bit.ly/free from Dr. B, which is DRB. So let me repeat it again, bit.ly/free from Dr. B, which is just DRB. Go on in there, look especially at our VIP Bold Badass sponsors at the top who have some incredible gifts for you. And also scroll down and you'll see all the guests we've had on the show. You can find those things that will be most beneficial to you in the rhythm, to use that word we used before, that you're in right now. So very quickly, Kathy, would you tell everybody what you're going to give to the freebie vault?
Well, you know what? If you don't mind, I will give two things. I'm going to give a digital copy of my Unlearn the Crap and Level Up Your Soul is Calling book that teaches everybody about the language of their body, mind, soul with universal laws so that they can be empowered. Beautiful. And then I do also have a assessment to determine just how close you are to stress and burnout. Because the closer you are to stress and burnout, the farther away you are from your own alignment.
Beautiful. I love that. So those two work together beautifully. You know, figure out with the assessment, figure out how far you are from your true calling. And then with the other opportunity, you can figure out, what is it that my soul is calling for? What am I calling? Absolutely. What is my soul yearning for? And really, you all, we don't want to get to the end of our lives and say, well, I wish I had. No, I don't want you to have those words in your mouth. And that is another reason I do this show, because Bold Badassness is saying that bucket list isn't going to be a kick the bucket list. Like when you die, you say, oh, I wish I had. No, your bucket list is what you do now. Now. You go do the stuff that you care about. You want to travel to Bali, you travel to Bali. You want to create a children's book, you create it. You want to, find a partner, you do that. You want to start a animal sanctuary, you do it.
Yeah. You
do it, because, eventually we're going to put this body down. We're going to put this little shell, this vessel down, and our energy will continue. But the expression of it as Kathy Baldwin, the expression of it as you, the listener, the expression of it as Dr. Barnsley will be gone. Well, it certainly live on in our digital world, but, it will, our opportunity to really savor and enjoy that bucket list in this lifetime will be gone. So everybody, you got to go to bit.ly/free from Dr. B. DRB, and you will find Kathy's gift there. We're going to get it up quickly. You'll find her gift and all the other gifts. Make sure that you give yourself the gift of spending some time with those gifts there that make sense to you, those gifts that call to you. I know that when you do that, when you invest that time and energy in yourself and avail yourself of the gifts that seem right for you right now, that they are going to push your trajectory and bring you even more success in your life and your business. So this has been the Bold Badass Business Show. Haven't we had an awesome episode, Kathy? I can't thank you enough. I love spending time with you. And everybody, remember, even if you don't feel like a bold badass today, you are, or you wouldn't be listening. I'll see you next week, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Be a badass.